you say what exactly geochemists and volcanologists do?
Sure. Ever see the movie Titanic, that little red and white submarine? I went down in that submarine 2 miles down off Galapagos Islands to get lava samples.
I really want to understand the invention process. Once you have an idea, what comes next? Could you explain what is sea rescue is?
When you're lost at sea or on land, your head's a little speck in the big ocean or a big mountain. And historically, they have smoke signals, flares, sea dye marker, or even your phone or GPS telling you where they are. But if you talk to any search pilot, they always say the same thing. We need a visual. We have to see you. So my invention, the Sea Rescue Streamer, is the only continuous and discretionary signaling device.
Do you ever worry it become commoditized over the time?
All the people that gave me shit about the streamer early on, I just kept that in the back of my head going, okay, one day you'll see this is really going to be a thing. It's not just a piece of plastic.
Welcome to the Billion Insight Podcast. I'm your host Shree. Today we have a very special guest. You may have seen him in a viral video where he pitched his life-saving invention on Shark Tank US. His name is Dr. Rob Yonover, a scientist who turns extreme survival challenge into brilliant life-saving solution. He's a geochemist, volcanologist turned inventor, and for decades, his life-saving tools like the Sea Rescue Streamer have been used by thousands of people globally, including military personnel, pilots, even astronauts and rescue teams operating in some of the most dangerous conditions on the planet Earth. Today, we shall talk about how to go from idea to invention, why survival tech is more relevant than ever, and what it really takes to create something that saves lives. So, without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Rob Yonover to the show. So, welcome, sir. Welcome to the Billion Insight Podcast.
Thank you, Shree. It's great to be here. It's my honor. I love India, and I love watch some of your shows. I really appreciate it. It's a great honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining, and it's our pleasure to have you on our show, sir. It's a tradition in our show. We often start with our guest childhoods. If it's okay with you, so can we start from the beginning?
Yeah, sure. Basically, I'm a scientist inventor, and that was a big wave surfer. So I moved to Hawaii, and I fell in love with volcanoes. So I work on volcanoes, and it seems like everything I do, whether it's going on a live volcano or going surfing in big waves or fishing in rough water, I always seem to be on the edge of dying. And when you have time to think about things, you start thinking about contingencies. What if this happened? What would I do? And I read a lot of books about survival stories, and the number one piece of equipment you have in any survival situation is your brain. That's the most important thing. So years ago, while I was getting my PhD working on volcanoes, we were flying over Oahu to go to Kauai, another island, and I looked down and all you see is that blue water. And it's like, oh, if the plane goes down, and the plane didn't sound too good. I thought it was a little plane. My friend was flying it. And I thought, if we go down, the plane's going to sink. How are they going to see us? And knowing what they have on boats, they have smoke signals, they have flares, they have sea dye marker, but all that stuff goes away quickly. Even the electronic stuff only tells you where to look. It doesn't tell you exactly where the person is. And then a few weeks later, I flew to Florida, where I grew up, and I saw this artist, Christo, had wrapped these little islands in Miami with pink plastic. And that's where the idea came from. If I could just get a piece of this pink plastic as a long tail, maybe they could see me. And it turned into orange, like the diagram behind me. But that's where it was. I had to figure out how to make it work. And I patented the struts. You can see that white bar right there. There's white spreader bars in it. So it's like a centipede. It doesn't twist up, and it trails behind you. And this idea happened before you were alive. This was 40 years ago I thought of this. And I've been thinking about it and working on it forever. I don't know if you're familiar with the fable, The Tortoise and the Hare. Do you know that? Where it's a race between a rabbit and a turtle. The rabbit is so fast. Yeah. The rabbit can beat him easily. But the rabbit goes so fast, he gets lazy and waits. But the turtle just keeps plodding along. I'm the turtle. 40 years ago, I thought of this. I knew it was the right idea, and I just kept plodding along. And here I am 40 years later, and it's saved lives, and it's done really well, and I'm really proud of it. And it's just good for your listeners to realize you should never quit. You should never quit trying for your dream. And what I tell people is don't quit your day job, though. If you quit your day job, you have no money coming in. So to be the turtle, you're playing the long game. And to play the long game, you have to have other sources of income. So I was a
Mhm.
scientist. I was at the university. I had other inventions. I got grants. I had all this money coming in, not all this, enough money to keep me going till I had a big
Mhm.
breakthrough. But I still do the same, even as an older guy now, I still do the same thing. I surf, I go visit volcanoes, I fish in rough water, I do all that stuff, and I'm still thinking of stuff. And I'm still working on some projects that haven't got launched yet that I'm using the turtle approach, and I'm not giving up. Maybe when I'm dead and gone, they'll be launched, but I'm going to keep trying.
Yep, sir. That is a fantastic story. It's a very inspirational, I would say. We will touch that part in details. But before that, I
Okay.
would like to ask you about your upbringing.
Okay. Very good. I was born in, my father was in the war, and he was in D-Day, with the World War II and Normandy, and he came back to Chicago, and he met my mother in Chicago, and they had us. I have a brother and a sister, but when I was 1 year old, my father had gone down to Miami, Florida, and it was beautiful and warm. And he said, "Why do I have to live in this cold Chicago weather?" So he moved us down to Miami. So I was only 1 year old, but it was a really, I still used to thank him for that all the time, because if I had grown up in Chicago, I wouldn't know the ocean the way I know it. So that was the beginning. And as a kid, I was I didn't talk that much at the beginning. I had an older brother. We had our own secret language, and we were already, my parents always emphasized creativity and also travel. So whenever we had three kids, there were three of us, my older brother and younger sister, we always were doing art projects or crafts. My mother would always spread the newspaper on the ground and give us paint or clay or pens. We were always encouraged to draw stuff, make stuff. On the other hand, my father, he grew up in a depression, so he had no money. He was born of doing it yourself. You never buy anything new; you fix it. If you have something that breaks, you fix it and create a solution. So combining that, creating, fixing what you have with being creative with arts, that's how I kind of got my creative thing going. And then in school, I realized I, my brother would get in trouble all the time because he didn't do well in school. He was really smart, but he screwed around all the time. So I realized I want to do well in school so no one gives me a hard time. So I was getting A's in school, and I got to hang out with my friends and go surfing. And my friends were kind of troublemakers. They were kind of derelicts. But because I got straight A's, I was always allowed to do whatever I want. My parents believed in the three R's when you're raising a child: respect, responsibility, and resourcefulness. And I kept showing responsibility, they kept giving me more. And I would get all A's in school, so they couldn't really say anything. And then I learned that I was good in science and math, and I just kept going. And in college, my freshman year, I took a geology class, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but geology was so broad. And then they talked about volcanoes, oil, diamonds. I'm going, okay, this is good. I like all this. And it turns out I got into volcanology, but I still kept my creative edge and kept working it. And growing up in Florida, I got introduced to the ocean, became a surfer, went to Florida State for college, a state school, and then when I got offered to get my master's because I did well. I worked on a gold deposit in Nova Scotia, Canada, and then I applied to go to schools in places I dreamed about: New Zealand, Santa Barbara, California, and Hawaii. And the New Zealand offer came first. But I looked at the globe. I'm like, here's Florida. New Zealand's all the way on the other side of the globe. Then the Hawaii offer came, and I'm going, okay. And then the Hawaii offer was really great because it included a submersible. Did you ever see the movie Titanic? That little red and white submarine? I went down in that submarine 2 miles down off Galapagos Islands to get lava samples. And that's what I worked on for my PhD. So I've had these incredible things that come together. And then I wrote a grant, and I got to work at NASA, Johnson Space Center, on my samples. And I worked with lasers analyzing the little bubbles of gas inside the lavas. So it's been a crazy run, but I came all the way from Chicago when I was one to Florida to Hawaii. And I've been in Hawaii 41 years now, and I'm not going
Oh,
anywhere. Yeah,
so
yeah.
you born in Chicago, then you move
Yes,
into Florida, then
right.
you settle in the
I,
Hawaii.
right, right. I moved to
Yep.
I went to college in northern Florida. I lived in southern Florida, in Miami. Northern Florida, they had a state school, Florida State University, and that's where I did my bachelor's and master's. And then, so I was 25 years old. Then I got the offer to go to Hawaii. And now I've been here 41 years. And I raised my children here. And I got a whole crazy story. It gets even crazier because my late wife she was training to run a marathon and she started limping. And it turned out she got MS, multiple sclerosis, and became paralyzed, which was unfortunate. So she was in a wheelchair for the last 19 years of her life while we had little kids. So I had to take care of her in a wheelchair and kind of raise the kids, which was quite an experience for a macho guy. But luckily, because I was an inventor, I invented ways for us to get through it. And we got through it. And she lived a long life, considering most people in her situation wouldn't have lived that long. So I've got a crazy side story too, a personal story. And my kids are doing well. They went to college and they came back here. They got master's degrees here, and they live 5 miles away from here. So it's really nice. They live close, and my son and his wife just had a baby. So I'm a grandfather now too, which is fun.
Oh, congratulations, sir.
Thank you. They're very exciting. It's a whole nother world.
So, sir, you are a geochemist and volcanologist. So,
Right.
could you say what exactly geochemist and volcanologist do?
Sure. Okay, well, we analyze lava samples from volcanoes, and you try to understand what's going on. For instance, my PhD worked on the Galapagos Spreading Center. So in the middle of the ocean, there's a spreading center making new lava. And we wanted to know, sometimes when this new lava connects with another line of lava, it shuts off and dies. And as it dies, they wanted to know what the lava composition is, the chemical composition. And we thought that it would be very evolved because it was cool. But what happens is, as it dies, the last blasts of lava come from very deep near the mantle, so it's very primitive. So that was a big discovery that we didn't know. And the other thing that I did was I tried to pioneer a new way to look at analyzing lava samples. So have you ever made a tray of ice cubes and there's a bubble in there? A bubble gets stuck in. Same thing happens when minerals form in lavas, like little minerals. The little bubbles form, but those bubbles are the exact composition of the mantle. They don't get altered by going up to the crust and out to the ocean and out to the surface of the air. So they're the exact window into what the mantle looks like, or what the lava looks like in the magma chamber. So on my master's, I worked with these laser beams that blasted a hole in these inclusions and released the gas, and you analyze them in a mass spectrometer. So I did that at NASA Johnson Space Center. And then at MIT, we had a system called the ion probe. And I convinced them to let me use the ion probe. And I analyzed those little bubbles in the lavas. And we got some of the most primitive, which is the most pristine lava sample analysis ever seen in lavas. So that was a big breakthrough. And that was exciting. So I guess to answer your question, we try to understand how lava works or volcanoes work based on analyzing the composition of the minerals and rocks that are inside of it. That's basically. But the real bottom line is, the guy that I worked with at MIT, he didn't give me any credit for getting him into this. And then he became kind of famous. And I realized academia it's so cutthroat. They don't want to give you credit. And what I just discussed is very cool, but it's basically academia. It's not applied science. I'd rather be an inventor than invent something that saves lives. That seemed more useful for my mind than just just working on a lava sample and knowing what the composition is. That was very esoteric. So I got more into applied science after working geochemistry, volcanology.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the cut through the competition, and academia is kind of a selfish environment.
Right.
This kind of remind me of one TV series, Breaking Bad. You have seen that,
Sure.
right? Walter
Of
White.
course.
He also accomplished so much in his life, but he didn't
Right.
get that much of credit.
Right. He
Which,
got
yeah,
screwed over because of the money. It's always about the money. And what
yeah,
was great about Walter White was he was a great inventor or scientist, and he didn't get credit for his breakthrough, but he still had the passion to teach, and he was a good teacher. And that's one of the things I love to teach. That's why I like to do these podcasts. I don't know who's watching, but someone's watching. Besides, at least you're watching. So I
yeah.
like to share my knowledge and learn from other people. And unfortunately, in the world, it's not rewarded as it should be. Teaching should be the highest level of things, and it's hard to get respect as a teacher. And even Walter White saw that with Jesse as his student.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I don't think I'm Heisenberg, but I do
Yep, yep,
appreciate
yep,
that show.
yep, yep.
I'm not cooking meth over here. I'm
Of
making
course.
streamers.
Yep, yep, yep. Speaking about the steamer, so you mentioned that you got the idea 40 years back when you fly
Right,
through with your ball, and you
right,
saw that the complete blue ocean, and what will happen if somebody will stuck there, how he will communicate for the SOS. So in this way, you kind
right.
of the idea ignited that you have to do something here, right?
Right, right. There's a problem here. I love problems. So show me a problem and I want to solve it. And the way I solve problems is primitively with the least amount of materials and ideally no moving parts, no batteries, no chemicals, no electronics, nothing to
Hmm.
fail because I know from fishing and surfing and volcanoes stuff breaks all the time. You don't want to rely on batteries or stuff that has the corrodes in the salt. So that was the impetus to say there's got to be a simple solution. And then the other thing I always do in my inventions, the first place I go whenever I encounter a problem is I look to nature. How does nature solve the problem? Okay, so when I thought of the streamer, I couldn't make it work at first because it all twisted up and curled up. So I'm like, how does nature make something strong and linear, supportive? So I have three examples. One is your vertebrae. Without those segments in your vertebrae, your whole body would collapse. Number two is a palm tree. If you look at a tree, there's segments in it. And the third one is a centipede. There's segments in a centipede, so it doesn't curl up. A centipede, a bug, you know what a centipede is, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
So same thing. So that's when I had the idea of see that white bar right behind me. By
yeah.
putting bars in it, spreader bars with air in it, it won't twist up. And in fact, the first time I tested it, it was all crumbled out. I threw it up in the boat and we're floating and drifting. All of a sudden, it just spins. It spins its way flat, and even if a wave hits it, it spins back. And that was the breakthrough. And so they
Mm-hmm.
call that biomimicry. Biomimicry is when you mimic biology. That's where the word is. So you mimic
Biomimicry.
nature,
Hmm.
biomimicry. So always look to nature because if you believe that the planet's been here 4 billion years, that means nature's been here a lot longer than us. We've been here a couple 100,000 years, humans. We're nothing.
Yep.
We're like infants with a diaper on compared to nature and Charles Darwin and evolution.
Yep.
So
Uh,
that's my first thing is to go there. And my second move is always, again, is the most primitive. I want to solve the problem with the material at hand. So I go to stores sometimes and look at stuff, not to buy it for what it's supposed to do, but to buy it to break it and get a piece of something out of it. And I know that it's a way to be innovative. And I think the other thing is I've read a lot of survival stories, and when you're lost at sea in a raft, you don't have you don't have a lot of material out there. There's no
yep. Yep.
store for
Yep.
you to get stuff. So it, it's worked for me. And the problem I have is that a lot of my inventions look very bad at first. You've heard the saying form over function. Form over function, meaning make it pretty. It's more important to be pretty than work well. I'm the opposite. It's function over form. If it works, it doesn't have to look good at all. So even my house, I get a lot of pride. My late wife, we used to have real big arguments. She would want to buy something new when something broke. We didn't have any money because we were struggling with the babies and her paralysis and all that. And I'm like, no, we'll fix it. So my fixed jobs don't always look good, but it worked. So I'm like function over form. And even now, I take great pride. I have a friend that's made a lot of money, and he came see my boat. And I have an old boat that I just keep buying new motors for. My boat's like 25 years old. It's a great boat. But he came to my house, and he's a millionaire. And this is years ago. And he goes, haven't you ever bought one thing from the boating store for this boat? Because he was looking at all my homemade stuff. To me, that was the highest compliment. And for him, that was like an insult to me. So that's a different perspective.
What
Right,
I'm saying here is that inventor thing is inside in your blood. It is not.
right.
It is not like you just picked on in between.
Right, but I think it's in everyone's blood. That's what humans are. We're problem solvers. If we're just a bunch of animals running around trying to survive in the old days when you're just solving problems, everyone's solving problems. So we're all inventors. I think as you grow older, you become less of an inventor because you
Yeah.
get old and people tell you what you can and can't do. You learn stuff. But to me, the purest inventors are little kids. And in fact, here's
Yeah.
a good example. I worked with a guy when I was getting my PhD and I was getting the drawings done. My patent draftsman introduced me to this other inventor, And he invented the simplest thing ever that a 5-year-old could have thought of, and it's changed the life support for aircraft. And that is when there's
Mhm.
smoke on the cockpit. Let's say a plane catches fire, or not even fire. Let's say there's smoke. One of the instruments in the cockpit is smoking. If
Hmm.
smoke fills the cockpit, you can't see. You can wear
Yeah.
goggles, but you only can see the edge of your goggles. This
Yeah.
guy invented an inflatable bag that goes up to the windshield and up to your goggles. So it's like a kid looking through a balloon. It's so simple. And it got patents. It's got, it's used now. Corporate jets guys use it. The regular airlines don't use it. As far as I know, I've lost touch with him a little. He passed away, but
Hmm.
his son's running it. But like FedEx and UPS, I think those guys use it because
Hmm.
it's so, because the truth is you could take a smoke bomb and put a plane down. If you can't see in a plane with smoke, you can't just open the window and get the smoke out on a jet.
Yeah. Yeah. That is just simple and effective. It
Right. And it just
inflated in a way
inflates.
so that you can see
Yeah, and then
inside. Yeah.
right. So if you give a little kid a balloon, the first thing they do is push their face up to it and they look
Yeah.
through it. And that's all it
Yeah.
is. I mean, it was more. We had to build it with filters, and I worked for him for 5 years. It was awesome. We got FAA approval. I mean, it was much more sophisticated to inflate a bag without bringing the smoke in. We used filters and blowers. And we have to customize each bag to fit the geometry of each cockpit. So it was really cool. But the idea stemmed from something very similar. Same with mine. And by the way, the streamer. One of the reasons it works. I gave a talk once, and a guy that followed me was a brain scientist, neurology guy. He goes, I know why that works so well. We were doing a test on the brain and showing the brain all these stimuli, bright colors, bright sounds, but the slide projector slipped off and it showed the edge of the slide. So it showed a straight line. And believe it or not, there's really very few straight lines in nature. So your brain is trained to see a straight line. If it sees a straight line, it's like caution, danger. Like if you're running and you see a cliff you might fall off of, that's kind of a straight line. So anyway, it's just another way of looking at it. But the signal of a straight line is really ideal. And a bright color and a straight line is where I arrived at the streamer. But by the way, this is a simple one. I also have an auto deploy one for fighter jet pilots. So when it hits the water, if they're unconscious or dead, it unfurls automatically. It's
Mhm.
tied together by water soluble plastic, like in the time you throw in the dishwasher, or there's a rice paper candy. You ever eat that candy where the plastic kind of dissolves in your mouth? Anyway, I
Yeah.
found this plastic that dissolves, and we made a pouch. So instead of rolling the streamer up, we Z fold it or fan fold it. The pouch is tied together with this plastic that dissolves. It hits the water, and
Mhm.
within a half hour, the whole pouch opens up and the streamer just goes out. And the pilot can be dead or unconscious, and he still gets the streamer out. And in fact, that one has lights, flashing lights like this right here. So it's
Hmm.
interesting.
That
Again,
one is
just
one you saw that in the Shark Tank, right? That one, the light one.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They all have lights now. They have either chem lights, which are, you break them and you shake them, glow sticks,
Oh,
and
yeah. The
reflectors,
chemicals.
or
Yeah.
they have chemical lights or they have electronic
Yeah.
lights. In Shark Tank, the black pouch I held up, that was the fighter pilot version. That's in the
Hmm.
F-16 ejection seats. Some of them, not
Okay.
all of them. Yeah.
Okay. So
And
the
but the
when the
other one,
pilot when it yeah, when there's a time when the pilot eject himself, the new version of the steamer, you're saying that the steamer will automatically deployed once the
yes, it does.
seat is ejected.
Right, but the one I sell mainly is the manual one. So you're
Manual one.
lost at
Okay.
sea or you're lost in the mountains, you unfurl it yourself. You do that yourself. But the one for the pilots, I mean, anyone can buy them if they contact us. But we
Yeah.
have
But
that
mostly that is
auto
B2B.
version.
That is kind of
Yeah, well,
B2B.
yeah, B to G, business to government.
Government,
The military. B
business to
to
government.
M,
Yeah.
really, business to military.
Military. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, I mean, there's some people that might want it. People that might think they go unconscious. They might that are doing high risk stuff. They might I don't know, and if they have money, because that one costs more like $700 or $800, whereas the regular one costs $100. So 95 is a little one, and so anyway, it's just a matter of what your need is. Most of the times you have time. Most of the time when you're lost at sea or lost in the mountains, you have time. So
Yeah.
and as long as, in fact, the military likes to say, if you're injured, could you still deploy this with one hand? Like if you broke an arm, and you could still unfurl it with one hand, and you have time.
Mhm.
And in fact, it just happened. in Florida. The guys got lost at sea, a couple skin divers, and the same thing happened. The other reason why I invented this was when I started looking into how big of a problem it was, it
Hmm.
happens all the time. And the people that are
Hmm.
lucky enough to live through being lost at sea or lost in the mountains, they all
Hmm.
say the same thing. You flew over me 3 times. Why didn't you see me? And the reason they didn't see you is your head is only this big. If your head has a 25 or 40-foot long orange tail, it's a lot easier to
Yeah.
see them. So
Yep.
you know how
Yep.
many
Yep.
people you know how many people have died? Probably hundreds of thousands of people have died because they were flown over. And the guys never saw them, then they died. So that's what I'm trying to prevent. If someone flies over you, they need to see you. And
Yep.
even
Yep.
EPIRBs and phones. Everyone thinks their phone or the GPS tells the people where they are. Yes, it does. But you know how rough the water is or how mountainous terrain is? You still need to see the person. You could know right where he is and still not find him. The ocean's rough.
Yeah.
See these like white caps, these little glare. This isn't even a good picture. If you go to the website, you'll see these before and after pictures, which is basically
Yeah.
how I've promoted it. This is what you look like without the streamer. This is
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
look like.
I saw that clip, the viral clip of yours from
Right,
the Shark Tank. You
right,
clearly
right,
zoomed
right.
them. One of the shark initially they couldn't understand what it is. I can't
Yeah,
see
right.
anything, and you said that. Yeah, that's the whole point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I should. It's like I paid him to say that. That was perfect.
Yeah, to understand it a little better, you said the idea first came to you 40 years back. So my
Yes.
question is, I am asking this question on the behalf of all the aspiring entrepreneur who watching this podcast. I really want to understand the invention process. Once you have an idea, what comes
Okay.
next? Do you sketch it
Okay.
out and build a rough prototype by yourself, or do you bring it in others to help you right away? I want to
Good.
dive into this because
Okay.
anyone dreaming of creating something, real product, it is a
Yes.
crucial to understand this steps early
Absolutely.
stages. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, along those lines, I wrote a book about my simple method. I call it hardcore inventing, and I call it invent, protect, promote, profit. So you're asking me about invent and protect. The
Yeah.
first couple
Mm.
stages, you come up with an invention. You draw it. First of all, you have a notebook and you keep dates. Like I thought of this on this date. So, and even send it to your attorney. Something so documents you thought of it on a certain date. Because if you ever have to battle someone that says they thought of it, if you can prove you thought of it on this day, you're ahead of them. Number two is you do patent search, which is you can go to Google Patents and you can just do it yourself at first. You can put in life-saving, survival gear, signaling, and you can start reading about things that are close. And you can find things in patents, and just because someone patented it, don't get too discouraged because one of the guys when I first started looking for the patent for this before I put a lot of effort into it, a guy had patented something similar, but it didn't have these flotation bars, and it actually
Yeah.
didn't work so well. So, and I had to
Mm.
battle the patent office because they thought it was the same as the other, but I fortunately got a hold of one of his, and it was nothing like this. So the patent office granted me a patent because of that. But that's the way I try to do it, is you invent, you put it down on paper, then you get in touch with it, and then you do a search. You do a patent search, and you just
Okay.
search the
Mm.
literature in general. And then ideally, if you have the money, you get a patent attorney, because the patent attorney, and the way I do it is I write my own patent. I copy the format of other patents of how they write it. Then I just
Mhm.
hire the attorney just to write the claims. The claims are the legal claims. That's the basis for the patent. Like these spreader bars, that was an important feature in my original patents. So he wrote it so it's very strong. You want a very broad patent. And believe it or not, in the patent world, the simpler the idea, the broader the patent protection is, because it's hard to build this without these white bars. So simple. But like an electronic device, you can get around different electronics and change the patent, so it's a lot easier to get around complex patents. It's very hard to get around simple patents. So that's something I would
Mm.
advise people. The other thing is when you're inventing something, just from a practical standpoint, if it's simple to make, simple to store, simple to ship, small, those are very important, because one of my recent inventions that didn't go anywhere, I didn't think it through. I invented a water bicycle that you pedal, and instead of a propeller on a bicycle in the water, it makes a big fin like a fish or a dolphin. It's a great idea. But when I started trying to build it, then I'm like, where am I going to put these? I need a big old warehouse. who's going to buy it? It's too big to ship. So I didn't think it through from the simplicity and the size standpoint. So the
Mhm.
smaller it is, and there's no expiration date. See, these batteries were a hassle because, I mean, it's good from a business standpoint because we have to replace them every 4 years. From my business perspective, I like stuff that doesn't break and doesn't wear out. And I'm not the best business person. In fact, the streamer, even on Shark Tank, they're like, well, people buy it once and never buy it again. I'm like, yeah, well, I solved the problem. I solved it elegantly and I solved it permanently. So some of the streamers, like the streamer I have on my boat, is 30 years old. It doesn't wear out. It's just a piece of plastic. So it's a great
Mhm.
idea, but I didn't think the business part through. And I don't care. I make some money, but I don't make as much as if it wore out every year and people kept buying it, buying it,
What you are
buying it.
doing is that is morally correct, right? You
I
have
think
said
so.
that it is like once somebody bought that streamer, it will be go forever. It is like
Right.
lifetime.
Exactly.
Uh,
And no one in business wants to hear that. No investors, no one wants to hear that.
exactly. I have seen a movie. It's a very old movie that is called The Man in the White Suit, where they
No.
have shown that a scientist have built a shirt that will last forever, and that very nature attract him to trouble because nobody wants to have the shirt that lasts forever, so that no customer will buy it again.
Right. No, exactly.
So,
They'll in
yeah,
fact, and I'm not to be paranoid, but when I first started out, you got to remember I'm disrupting some markets. You know, this market disruption. You have the flares, smoke signals, seed eye marker. Those three guys, all that stuff, you have to buy it every year or two, right? And that's been established for 100 years. That business. You know, the gun manufacturers make the flares, so it's like a gun. You know, flares. It's like a firework. And they wanted to kill me. I mean, they were just hoping I'd go away, and they still are because the truth is that every life jacket, life raft, flight jacket, backpack should have one of these in it. Survival kit. Every in the whole world, there'd be a lot less people lost at sea or on land. But those people that make money by selling flares, smoke, and die, you know, and I got in a little trouble, not trouble, but I gave a talk to the military like 20, 30 years ago, and I started talking like this, kind of bashing saying what the shortcomings are of flare, smoke, and die. And some of those guys took it very seriously. They were insulted because they grew up with flares, smoke, and die. And I'm coming
Hmm.
after them. I'm disrupting their whole market, their whole philosophy. So I don't know
Hmm,
if
hmm,
they were
hmm.
tied into the manufacturer, but and in fact, one of the early distributors I had was a flare manufacturer. Which have you heard of the saying, the fox is guarding the hen house? What, you know, it's like a risk for me to give this to the flare guys. They didn't want it to do well. They sold it all over the country, but they were happy when it wasn't doing that well. They wanted me to go away. A lot of people want me to go away. But back to the turtle, the tortoise, and the hare. I'm the turtle. I'm not going away till I die. I'm going to keep doing this. And the other strategy I have in business, and this is unlike most people. Most people want to get money infused, build it up quick, and make a lot of money. No, I want low overhead, and I want to be able to do this on the side always. So if I make some money, that it's a slow year. That, you know, I got to be able to weather the storm. Most businesses want to just keep expand, expand, expand. I want to have such low overhead, good margins, so I can stay in business forever. Because I'm doing a moral thing. I'm delivering a life saving product. I don't want to go out of business because, like even Shark Tank, if I made a deal with Mark Cuban, and of course, he wouldn't work with me. Some 30-year-old kid in his office would work with me. And he'd say, oh, you need to move from Hawaii. You need to go to these trade shows. You need to blow it up. You need to try this.
Yeah.
And that's so risky because when you put all this money in, it can flop and then you can go bankrupt. I don't want to do
Mhm.
that. I want to just keep going, keep going. Tortoise and the hare. So that's my philosophy. But inventing, back to the original question, keep good notes, keep inventing, and when I get stuck on one thing, I go to something else and come back to it. That's a critical thing. So I have all these inventions my whole life, and some are stupid, you know, like sunscreen. I was getting skin cancer things on my back because I couldn't put when I went surfing, I can't reach the middle of my back. So I had my friend put sunscreen on my back, but I'm not always with someone. And he said, "Oh, let me put it on your back." And then he said, "Now put it on my back." And he kind of had a nasty, hairy back, and I didn't want to put sunscreen on his back. So I invented a little. I didn't invent. I just went to the hardware store and got a little paint roller, and now I roll on the sunscreen. Stupid, simple, but it solved the problem for me. So again, I have all these weird inventions, but you have to pick the winner. That's the other thing. You got to keep trying it on. And now there's the term crowdsourcing, where you get
Hmm.
opinions. And I was doing this a long time ago. I asked people about the streamer, military people, business people, fishermen, and everyone kept liking it when I explained it to them. I'm like, and a couple of years, it took me a couple of years to get it going, but it never left. In my going to this idea and looking at other ideas, I kept saying, no, this is the one. This is the idea that's going to make me some money and save some lives. So even though I got stuck and it took me a while to get those struts built, I figured that idea out, but I didn't neglect it. I didn't quit. So I kept going.
Yep, yep. That's why they say, right? The necessity is the mother of invention.
Exactly, absolutely. And your brain is the number one driver of necessity. Is the mother of invention. It's all about your brain. I have this necessity. I'm going to be lost at sea. What do I do? How do I solve it? And I've read stories where guys in a life raft, they have a little butter knife and a stick. So they found some wire and they wired the butter knife up and they were able to stab the fish and eat the fish that were hanging around the life raft. That's a great invention.
You started the ideation 40 years ago. Then, do you remember when you shipped the first product to the consumer? In which year?
Yes, I do remember because it was probably 1990. So it was probably 10. I thought of it in 84 and maybe 94, 95 was the first time the consumer saw it. So it was almost 10 years. And then
Okay.
97, I signed a license agreement. I'm a big licensing guy. If you can get a
Mhm.
license, I had a 15-year license with a local company here in Hawaii that paid me guaranteed royalties against sales. So it enabled me to have cash flow to support my household and my situation with my wife and all that. And they only paid me they paid me a base royalty against sales. So if the sales were bigger, I got more money. If the sales were
Mhm.
below the royalty, I still got my base. So for any inventors out there, if you can do a licensing deal, those are the best. But the one I had is very unique because most license deals don't have guaranteed royalties. They just have based on sales only. So I had him for 15 years. And then after that, this is kind of a funny story. The guy that makes my surfboards, after the 15-year license ended, here I am. I've got no cash flow anymore except what I can sell myself or what I had left over. And I'm looking for new licensees, but no one was willing to pay me guaranteed royalties. And the guy that makes my big wave surfboards, he asked me, he goes, "Hey, do you know how to manufacture them?" I go, "Yeah, I invented how to build them." He goes, "Why don't you build them yourself and keep all the money?" I'm like, geez, what a great idea. And that's what I've been doing the last 10 years. So
Oh, so
that way I can control if it gets bigger, it's like contract workers. So I have a facility and if it's a small orders, I can do it in-house. But if I need, sometimes the orders are big, I hire more people. So I expand and contract for the orders.
hmm,
But the thing is, because it's a life-saving product and it goes on military, I have to sign off on every one. There's a thing called certificate of conformance, meaning the product
okay.
has to
Quality
conform
check.
to the standards. Yeah, the quality control has to be there. So I figured I'm touching them anyway. I should be more part of building them. And that was the best
Okay.
advice I ever had. Because back to the tortoise and the hare, by building them myself with my own company, I can expand and contract and I can weather any slow periods. If I don't have sales for a month or two, it doesn't kill me because I've kept my overhead low and I've kept my employees besides me as contractual so I can grow, expand and contract as needed.
Yep,
So
yep, yep. Actually, I forgot to ask you at the beginning. Anyway, I will
sure,
ask you now. For
sure.
those who are still figuring out what this device is, could you
Okay.
could you explain as briefly as possible what is sea rescue
Absolutely,
is? Yeah,
absolutely. Right, I should
yeah,
have said that at the beginning. Okay, when you're
yeah.
lost at sea or on land, your head's a little speck in the big ocean or a big mountain. And historically, they have smoke signals, flares, sea dye marker, or even your phone or GPS telling you where they are. But if you talk to any search pilot, they always say the same thing. We need a visual. We have to see you. So my invention, the Sea Rescue Streamer, provides you with a simple, everlasting signal that the military, when they first saw it, said it's the only continuous and discretionary signaling device. Continuous. Once you put it out there, And all it is you see it right behind me. It's a 25-foot or 40-foot long orange piece of plastic that trails behind you in the water or on land. So when they fly over you, your head doesn't look like a coconut floating in the water or a rock on the mountain. It sees the rock with a 40-foot orange tail or 25-foot orange tail. So the military is like, oh my God, it's continuous. So the guy could put it out and go to sleep in the life raft and it's still working for you. So, or it's discretionary. If you're signaling in the water and, oh my God, this is the wrong airplane, that's the enemy, I can pull it back in, stuff it under my shirt. The enemy passes by, I redeploy it, and then our aircraft comes and sees it. It's the only continuous, discretionary, and redeployable signaling device. I got patents. I've got military approvals. I have national stock numbers. It's in the U.S. military stock system. It's on militaries all over the world. It's saved lives already. It's on SpaceX under the astronaut's ass. So when they come down, if the capsule gets lost or they get separated, they can signal. So it's a massive, and I got it on Shark Tank. It's been all over the place. And that's my whole thing on how I promote it is more, you heard of guerrilla marketing? I don't pay a PR marketing staff. I go on, I do my own marketing and get on my own PR because PR, public relations, like even your show here, when this is, if you talk to me here, I didn't pay you to put me on. So it's a third party, or like the military saying this is good. That's a third party endorsement. That's better than me paying for an advertisement in a boating magazine because anyone can pay for an advertisement. But to be on a show or have some experts say it's good. So I kept working the media. That's how I built this company by
Yeah.
just
You
sending
let your
out
product speak.
press releases.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I let
Yeah.
the editors and the writers and the podcasters and the broadcasters speak for me. You know, I speak for it originally. I show them the idea, then I let them run with it. And I know, have you ever heard of, I don't know if you get this show from a long time ago, Gilligan's Island? Have you heard of that show?
No,
Anyway, it's
sure.
a show,
Not
an
quite sure.
American TV show a long time ago, but these people get shipwrecked and they get lost at sea. And then they live on this island for the 5 years of the show. And one of the
Oh.
writers in Men's Journal, a famous magazine, Men's Journal wrote about this, and they said Gilligan's Island would have been one episode if they had the streamer, meaning they would have
Yeah.
never been lost. So one of my strategies is to let people talk about it in their own terms, in their own
Yeah.
words,
Yeah.
in their own way. And I
Yeah.
don't micromanage people talking about it. Let them promote it for me. So
Yeah.
that's worked really well. And
Absolutely,
again,
sir.
it's simple. It rolls up. I don't have one in front of me. They're small. They're the size of my phone. The small one has a little holster. It can fit anywhere. It's only 8 ounces. So there's no reason to say it's too big. You can check it on a plane. You know, the other devices, you got the batteries. You can't always go through TSA with batteries. You know, and so it's such a simple device. And by the way, they all float, whether they're unfurled or rolled up. So if your boat sinks, you don't want to tie it to the boat. You want to leave it loose. Either tie it to yourself or your life jacket. So if the boat sinks, you'll see them floating. So you grab one and unfurl it. Anyway,
Yep.
so
Yep.
they're
Yep.
just
Yep. Can civilian use this tech, or is it professional only?
absolutely. Civilians can use it also. In addition to the military, boaters, hikers, kayakers, anyone that goes out into the wilderness that has a potential to get lost can use this, land or water.
Okay. So, sir, talking about the customer, I know that the Sea Rescue streamer is clearly a great life-saving product, but one thing I'm just thinking is here is that you mentioned the price of the streamer is around $100 if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
So,
Yeah.
so sir, do you ever worry it become commoditized over the time? Why I'm asking this because many products in the past we have seen inventors invest years in R&D just like you. When they launch their product, almost immediately a cheap knockoff version come out of
Right.
from China. I'm not
Right.
specifically saying that your product is being ripped off, but I'm speaking from a general perspective.
Sure. I've been worried about this for 40 years. Okay. I understand this question. I know
Yeah.
this question. And it's been something that I've had sleepless nights about. But again,
Hmm.
back to the patents are broad. The military approvals are broad and hard to get.
Hmm.
There are 42 individual components in that $95 little streamer. So it's a lot more stuff than you think. And yes, you could make it more inexpensively in China. And I've had the problem. I did have one case where they tried to rip me off, but they tried to sell it to another government, And I effectively argued to the government, it was for the military, you don't want a unit that's never been tested. This has been put through millions of dollars of testing by the military. So you're at risk if you buy a knockoff. And
Yeah.
the other thing is the price itself. We looked at lowering the price by going bigger and bigger quantities,
Yeah.
but the problem is that the quantities just aren't there to drive that. And it's almost like a decision that if you want the real one that's been tested that worked, you have to pay a little more. I mean, there is no fake one as we know it,
Yeah.
but I think that people value their life more than $95. So if I know it sounds like a lot, and in the early days, it's funny because 30 years ago, a good friend of mine said, because we started out, it was only $29 a long time ago, 30 years ago. And I kept working to get the price down. And it was a real simple one. It didn't have chem lights, it didn't have reflectors. And my friend said, "No, you're getting it wrong. You need to raise the price. You shouldn't lower the price." And ultimately, he was right because the margins have to be there to get a business. I don't know if you understand. If you see something on Amazon or on a store that costs $95, it has to cost like $30 to make it.
Yeah.
They make such commissions that so you can't really if you start going lower and lower and lower, there's no money, and then I'm out of business. So it's been a dilemma I've faced forever. And I, of course, want it to be this big and cost $1. So everyone just buys it and doesn't think. But you have to think of the business
To
structure
be
of it.
viable.
And
Yeah.
yeah, to be viable, it has to cost more. And again, 42 individual pieces of material go into each one, and it's very specialized. Each the film, the struts, everything that's in there has been tested to meet a spec that's been tested. So, and my thing now, as I'm older, I really don't care if people don't want to buy it because it's too expensive. That's you don't think your life's worth that
Yeah.
much, fine. And for people that want to rip it off,
Yeah.
the patents are strong, the military approvals are strong, and the other thing is the trademark is strong. Sea Rescue Streamer's been around for a long time,
Yeah. Yeah.
so hopefully, the other way to look at it is if someone does rip me off, they face what could come for them legally, but they also might raise awareness and say
Yeah.
even like that one company that tried to rip me off with another military, they did a lot of the work to get the military to accept it. Then they sent all of it back because it was pirated counterfeit stuff. This is the real McCoy. So people in life saving don't want counterfeit knockoffs things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And as you mentioned, the quality thing, they
Right.
may copy, but the thing is, the dangerous part is that they are often not up to the standard. As you mentioned, you personally check
Right.
each and every product by yourself. In terms of the
Exactly.
life-saving product, you don't want to risk, right? Yeah,
Exactly. That's been our philosophy from the beginning. And it's not that large of a market that invites a lot of copycats too.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's to be honest, it's a quite hard. It's hard to sell it. It's hard to sell it to consumers because most people don't care.
Yeah, sir, this reminds me another question. You mentioned the Shark Tank when you introduce this product, right? The one who actually need this product, thing like the alpha male, the macho man kind of mentality, they don't
Right.
want to buy
Exactly.
this. Yeah, their
Exactly.
loved one actually kind of give them instead of they personally go ahead and buying this.
Exactly. That's why we've targeted, and not to be sexist, but
Yeah,
we've targeted women because women are smarter and more careful, and they're more likely to buy it to their idiot husband that doesn't take any gear out into the ocean or the mountains.
yeah. So, sir, do you think this mindset is still relevant in today's also?
Not as much because the macho perspective has died off a little as the male ego has died down because women keep beating men in everything, and
Yeah,
I'm a big supporter of women. And I think that philosophy, though, when a guy goes boating or hiking, they want to buy more beer or food. They're not thinking they should buy a piece of safety. That's why it's never really done that well the few times we've tried it in stores, in retail stores, because it gets lost in all these other safety devices in a boating store, for instance. And in a boating store, you have to have you need flares. That's required. So Joe Boater is going to buy only what's required, not what is useful. So it's a tough sell. And again, back to the tortoise and the hare. For me, I have to survive these ups and downs. And if I put all this money and took all these investors into saying it's going to blow up this year and it doesn't, then it blows up the other way and goes bankrupt.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I think I was smart to just keep creeping along and not going away. It's not too big to be targeted for
yeah.
pirating. and it's not too heavily invested where we're going to go out of business because our overhead is too high. So that's the philosophy.
You also mentioned that recently you got DARPA grants to fund the prototype development of potential LifeFloat technology. Can you tell us about
Yes.
that?
Yeah, sure. LifeFloat is I actually have many other technologies. I have inflatable rescue board, which is the LifeFloat, which morphed into the inflatable surfboard and paddleboard. That's a whole other story. And I did get challenged on my patents on that one because it turned into the paddleboard industry, and they all came after me because they didn't like me controlling their whole industry. But in addition to LifeFloat, I have a pocket desalinator, converts salt water to fresh water, a pocket flotation device, a video search and rescue device. I have all these devices, and I can talk about any of them if you'd like. They're all viable. None of them are really on the market so much. The LifeFloat is in the form of paddleboards. If you've seen inflatable paddleboards,
Yeah.
you pump them up, and there's this material called drop stitch nylon. It was from life rafts from the 1950s. It's thousands of strings, so when you inflate it, it doesn't bulge up. You can inflate it to much higher pressure. So that's why you can stand on it as a paddleboard. And my idea was to make inflatable paddleboards or surfboards, because people in life rafts, if you ever tried to paddle a life raft, you go in circles. You don't go anywhere. And me as a surfer, I'd rather be on a little surfboard that can paddle to get in the way of a ship so they'll see me, or paddle to shore. It was a good idea, and I built prototypes. I got some military grants for it. But then the paddleboard industry took off, and it kind of
Hmm.
interfered with my efforts because, first of all, they owed me royalties because I invented this. I patented the first inflatable paddleboard, and all these companies came after. And an attorney friend of mine said, "Oh, you should enforce your patent." So I started doing that, but then they teamed up against me, and 50 companies were taking me on, and then they finally scared away my patent infringement attorney. So we had to let it go. I didn't have to give up the patent, but I didn't get any more royalties. I was getting some royalties from all the inflatable patent boards. So that was the and as that stands, it's still a good idea, and I still try. I think one of the things I learned with the streamer is people want to see the most sophisticated thing. They're very insulted by some way. Their mind doesn't like simple things. So in the streamer case, when we put these lights on it and it popped out automatically for the fighter pilot, and it costs closer to $1,000, then people liked it. Then they bought the $95 one. So the same in the LifeFloat, the rescue board. I want to make it into a drone. That's my next plan. So I can drop it from a plane and drive it from the plane with remote control. Because when people are lost at sea and they do find them, if
Yeah.
they find you from an airplane, they can't do anything but drop stuff to you. The airplane can't land on the water and get you. So when they drop a life raft to you, it doesn't usually get to you because it's hard to hit you. And then if it drops a couple 100 meters away, it's going to float away. So to drop something like a rescue board that you can drive as a remote control vehicle, that's where that's going. And this, I need help on that one. And that one is going to takes a lot more money to get it going. So I'm waiting. And one of the things I've also learned is don't build something unless there's a customer. So I'm waiting for the customer to say, yes, I want 100 of these with drone capability, and I'll pay you $10,000 each one. I'll make them right away when that happens. But until I get the order, I'm not going to just build them on spec, on if come basis. So there's that, and then the other one is the inflatable rescue, a little pocket flotation device, which is most people don't wear life jackets. So I invented the smallest little life jacket in the world, which is based on two balloons, or it was a joke at first. It was two condoms that you tie up and you put under your arms and you float. But I made some webbing around it, and now it's still very small, and you can put it in your pocket. That's why I call it pocket float. My whole premise is if it's not on you, it's not going to save you, because in an emergency, things happen quickly. The boat gets a hole, you're sinking, you don't know what to grab, boom, you're in the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this pocket flotation device is a simple orally, you just blow up two balloons, put a strap between your arms, and it floats you. That's
Hmm.
it. Very
Yeah.
simple. And again, it's so simple, it kind of gets laughed at. So I'm again waiting on that one to see how I can develop it. The one idea that I really want to do is my pocket desalinator. I
Okay,
figured out a
disadvantage.
way to convert salt water
Hmm.
to fresh water. So places like even in India where you have water that's polluted or water at the ocean you can't drink because there's salt in it, I have a way to make a solar still, and it's very small, but it's not efficient enough. It makes about a half a cup of water
Okay.
in a day. The military wants a liter a day. So
Yeah.
I have to jump from a half a cup to a liter. So I'm
Yeah.
working on making it more efficient. And
Yeah.
now that plastic heat sealing is getting more sophisticated, I think I found the company to team up with to do that.
Okay.
So hopefully you'll hear about that. Maybe the next time we speak, I'll
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
that one.
That is a very interesting product are in the pipeline, sir. We are quite excited for that. All the best for that, I
Yes,
would say.
that's where I win a Nobel Prize, because the future wars are not going to be fought over oil like they are now. They're
So
going to be
water.
fought over water. Water, you know that, where you live and everywhere. The water is critical. So
Yes,
if
sir.
you have the ability to lay a bag of water in the sun from the ocean or from polluted river or anywhere and have it distill into pure water and drink it and repeat it again, like the streamer, super simple, stupid simple, no moving parts, reusable, never wears out. Again, not a good business idea, but a good solve the problem idea.
Morally correct.
Right. Morally,
Yeah.
I like that. Morally correct.
Yeah. So, sir, we are on the final segment of our podcast.
Okay.
This we call the instant insights, where we will ask you some quick question and you have to answer as fast as you can.
Okay.
Okay,
Shoot,
sir.
I'm ready.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Tea,
Cats or dogs?
dogs,
Beach or mountains? I know the answer.
beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
City or countryside?
Countryside,
Yeah. Blue or green?
blue,
Early bird or night owl? I,
early bird.
yeah, this also I can vouch for
Yeah,
you.
you can guess all these.
Yeah,
The one for
this.
mountains, if there's the
Yeah,
only
sir.
time I like going to mountains is if there's live lava. If the volcano's erupting, I'm going up. But other than
Yep,
that,
yep,
I go to
yep,
the
yep.
ocean.
Yeah. It's the best way to start your day.
Best way to start my day
Yeah.
is in the water, paddling or surfing.
Introvert or
Absolutely.
extrovert?
That's a good one. I'm both. I'm an extrovert publicly, but I like to be with myself, and an introvert most of the time because I like to just be at one with nature.
Most recent hobby that you picked up?
That's a tough one. I'm kind of a creature of old, so I don't really change that much. Uh, I don't have any new ones. I keep rebuilding the old ones: surf, paddle, fish, dive, swim. Explore volcanoes. That is a problem. I guess travel would be the one. I travel to new places. That's the newest thing I do. Like
Okay.
India, when I went to your country. Beautiful.
Travel back in time or forward in time?
Back in time.
You want to witness the history?
Well, no, I want to be here before the humans were around.
Okay.
Even when I travel, I don't really want to go see like the Taj Mahal. I'd rather see tigers. You know what I'm saying? Or go to Italy. I don't want to see churches. I'd rather see volcanoes. I don't want to. I want to see what nature does, not what humans do. Especially in the case of human slaves. All these great monuments in the world were built by slaves, and I'm not into slaves, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
bad.
That's a very interesting perspective, sir, I must say. If you could have any dinner guest, dead or alive, who would it be?
Buckminster Fuller. Do you know him?
I'm afraid
Buckminster
I'm not
Fuller was a
recall.
famous inventor. Geodesic dome. He he was going to commit suicide, and instead of himself, he decided to recommit his life to inventing stuff for humankind, morally correct stuff. And he didn't talk for a year to reprogram his brain. Then he made like 100 great inventions. Those domes that have like little triangles, those are his geodesic dome. And he coined the word spaceship Earth. Anyway, really cool guy. And I
Interesting.
didn't get to meet him. Yeah, he's written some good books too. So
I will.
yeah, Buckminster Fuller.
I
Read
will
up on
check it out.
Buckminster Fuller. Okay.
Yo. Best way to handle success?
Humbly, if you can. Be low key about it. My success has been light to moderate, but I never let it get my head big. I want to greet and talk to people of all kinds and be accepted by people of all kinds, and not be an exclusive person, you know. And
Yeah.
also, that's where all the good stuff comes from. So yes, absolutely, be humble. Yeah, no, I just think that I got fortunate in my life. I was born in a good country. I had great parents that were creative, that encouraged travel. I got a good brain. I got to go to college, and then I got paid to go to college to get my master's and PhD. I took advantage of all these opportunities, but I know I had the opportunities.
Yep,
So,
yep, yep.
you know, it makes me humble to know I didn't start from nothing. I didn't
Yeah.
start from a really depraved background or deprived
Yes, sir.
background.
Earlier, when I compliment you that the invention thing is in kind of in your blood, you kind of humbly saying that this is in everyone's blood. But what I'm seeing
Exactly.
is what I'm thinking is seeing is here is that is it's more or less we have to contribute to our parents, our teacher, our guardians to
Yes.
enable that curiosity within us.
Absolutely. Yes, that's even my granddaughter. She's not even a year old, but immediately I'm taking her into nature and just being quiet with her and letting her explore and get dirty and eat mud and eat grass and touch trees and touch the water and just start and also get her stuck in a problem. You know, she gets falls down. I'm not helping her up. You help yourself up. You know, self-reliance.
Yeah.
You know, Emerson. You ever heard of Emerson and Thoreau, these famous writers that talked about self-reliance and going back to nature. And to me, it all links to survival and being humble because
Mm.
nature will humble you quickly, but you can learn a lot from it. So
Yep, yep, yep.
that's my go-to.
Best way to handle failure.
Own it, analyze it, and try to correct it, and
Yes,
try
sir.
to get back up and do it again. But don't think that it's those you're failing. Own it. It's my failure. Even if it wasn't all you, what did I do wrong in that situation that caused failure, and what can I do to not fail again and not quit? To me, failure drives me. That's incentive. That's when
Mm.
I get pissed off. Okay, you know, like all the people that gave me shit about the streamer early on, I just kept that in the back of my head going, okay, one day you'll see this
Yeah,
is really going to be a thing. It's not just a piece of plastic. My late
yeah.
wife used to tell me, stop playing with that piece of plastic and get a real job. You know, and that's fine. That was banter among husband and wife, but she meant it too. And I meant it like, I'm not quitting this. You'll see
Mm.
one day. And she saw how useful and successful it became. But
Yes, sir.
you got to own failure because
Yeah.
in every situation, it takes two parties to have a failure. And you can't just blame it on the person that's failing you. I got to own some of that failure.
Yep, sir. That level of commitment, that level of conviction is required in life. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Best gift you have ever received.
Well, the gift of time is the best thing. If someone gives you your time, my father was flexible and mother in their schedules. My father was a self-employed guy, so he was able to give us his time, and even just being around. He doesn't have to always be there, but he was available, and
Mm.
that the best thing you can do to someone is give them time. The other best book, our wedding gift, we got a big. This is before the internet, a big atlas of the world, so all the maps. That was the best physical gift I got at the time because it made me want to travel the world, and I was able to, and I'm still doing it. And it was all because of just looking at these maps of the world. I'm
Yeah.
really, I guess I'm an explorer. So you give me the opportunity, I'm going to
Yep,
go.
yep, yep. So, sir, what one skill you wish you would learn earlier in your career?
What one skill I wish I had learned?
Yeah.
Music. I love music, but I can't play anything.
Interesting. Favorite book?
Thick Face, Black Heart. It's based on the art of war, Sun Tzu, but it's a good business and life book. Thick Face, Black Heart. But Anna Karenina is my favorite novel by Tolstoy.
Sir, earlier you said that you don't have that business acumen in you, but the way you target your customer, instead of targeting themselves, you're targeting their spouse. That is a brilliant piece of marketing, I would say.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it's process of elimination and frustration and failure. You keep failing by trying to sell it to the macho men. You realize, wait, the
Okay.
smarter women might be better customers.
Favorite movie?
Oh God, that's too hard. But okay. Favorite movie. Oof. I'm such a movie guy. I can't even. Unbearable likeness of being. Unbearable likeness of being. Yes. It's a good one. Look it up. It's old now, but that was a great movie.
Yes, sir.
I really
I
and
will show it to
very
you.
few movies I see twice. I've seen that twice, and it was 3 hours long.
Interesting.
Yeah.
NASA or MIT?
These days, I would have answered NASA 20 years ago. Now I'll say MIT.
Tech you wish existed. The technology you wish existed. Any futuristic technology that you wish exists today.
Cell phone blockers. I don't want cell phones to work. I don't want smartphones to work when I'm talking to people. So I want a button that can totally turn their phone off so they're not distracted, especially for kids.
Yep, sir.
You know, I'm really against cell phones, and that's my phone.
Ooh,
Okay,
that's a feature phone. I'm a
it's like
normal dumbed down phone. Yeah.
no,
No smartphone.
yeah, but buttons. It can get on the internet, but no apps.
Yes,
When I
sir.
go out in nature or
Yep, yep,
in
yep.
public, I want to talk to people.
Yep. I have seen most of the creative people are kind of like that. One of my favorite director is Christopher Nolan. If you've seen his any
Oh yeah,
any of
of
his
course,
movie, yeah.
sure.
So he is also kind of cut off from phone entirely. He don't carry.
Yep.
He doesn't carry any phone at all.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I admire those guys, and my thing is, if I'm in the water, that phone doesn't. No phones work. So if
Yeah.
we're all disconnected if you come in the water with me. So I like that format.
Yeah. So most skeptical response you have faced about your product.
It's a toy. It's a piece of plastic. It's nothing. It's just stop playing with that piece of plastic. The
They're
most
just
skeptical
ignorant, I
one
would
came
say.
from my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm used to that. I got that for 20 years. I still get it. Now it's got more credibility, but it didn't for a while.
Yeah. So, sir, you have seen the world both before and after the digital age. So,
Yes.
according to your vast experience, what are the three things that your generation has the younger generation lacks?
Well, interaction with nature, because we were forced to. Patience. We have patience. You guys are so into immediate satisfaction. Immediate gratification. So you want something, you get it right away, and just also just enjoy just interpersonal connections. Really spending time with people is so much of a lost art. Even the telephone call. The way I enjoy our interaction here because it's more of an old school thing. It's like we're sitting in the same room. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. I really do think that people lose that these days. And you have to do a podcast to be able to do it. Because even if you
Yeah.
meet someone in person, their phone goes off and they pick up their phone. You're not going to pick up your phone. I'm not going to pick up my phone. I'm
Yeah.
looking at you. You're looking at me.
Yeah.
And just to be bored. The other thing is be bored. People say it's not good to be bored. It's great to be bored. That's when you go into your mind and think of stuff creatively. To be brief.
And the vice versa. The new generation has the old generation lacks anything, any three things.
The entertainment is great. I love the ability to watch movies on Netflix. You've got that. And I think it's a bad and good, but maybe the internet dating, because when I was a kid, it was hard to meet women, and the women I liked didn't like me. Whereas with the online dating, you can meet 1,000 women in a day, or see them at least. They may not like you, and that cuts both ways. And still, this video conferencing is awesome. And as a kid, we dreamed about this, and now it's nothing. Everyone does it. So this is an awesome thing that we have, but it should be used properly. And I think this should be used more than scrolling on your phone, looking at what people. People are followers on their phones.
Yes.
They're just following what other people are doing. I want to be a leader. I want to breed leaders. Leaders don't follow. Followers follow leaders.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I mean, we kind of took all the technology for granted. But if we think that we are living so far, we are about 16-hour time difference, still we are communicating with us real time. And
exactly,
this is the beauty of the technology.
Exactly. And the world has gotten smaller, which I love. I like meeting people like you across the world. It's incredible. And it's crystal clear. There's no delay. It's incredible. And we're sharing ideas. And that should make the world a better place. And if you think about Buckminster Fuller, when he wrote in 1984, Critical Path is one of his books, and he talked about the world has to share so many things that we don't want to kill each other. And that's kind of the way it's become, because financially we sell you guys stuff, you sell us stuff, we rely on you, we rely on you. That makes the world smaller if we know each other and we rely on each other and share and barter with each other. So I think the technology is enabling that. And also, it's harder to hide lies and secrets. It's a little weird now because of the way the media, but someone on a phone can show the world what's really happening, unless they block your internet. So there's that.
Yeah.
I'm encouraged ultimately. I just think that the phones are dumbing down people. That's the worst of all, is that people are dumb. And then the whole lie, smartphones, they're making you dumb. It's the opposite. Dumb phones make you smart. Smartphones make you dumb.
Couldn't say it better, sir. So, sir, this is an interesting round. I hope you are not getting bored.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Sir, this is an interesting round. I will utter a word and you have to respond with anything which comes to your mind right away. Okay. Nature.
The best.
Food.
Love it.
Love.
The ultimate.
Trust.
Have to have it.
AI, artificial intelligence.
Bad.
Freedom.
Ultimate part 2.
Music.
Required.
Challenge.
Necessary.
Knowledge.
Required.
Wisdom.
Aspire for wisdom.
Friendship.
Critical.
Success.
Shoot for it.
Peace.
That's the dream.
Regret.
Try not to have any.
Money.
Overemphasized.
War.
Horrible.
Travel.
Required.
DARPA.
DARPA?
Yeah.
Useful.
Politics.
Necessary, but evil.
Rescue.
Save you.
2025 so far.
Scary.
Okay, sir. One last question of the podcast.
Okay.
What is the best piece of advice that you have ever received?
Wow. You got to have a plan. When I met this old timer fisherman, and it had to do with how you're going to go fishing, where to look for the spots, but it's globally. It's more than that. In life, you got to have a plan. And the plan may not work, but you got to have a plan. That way, it kind of organizes your thoughts. You go on the path. You might fail. You may succeed. Then you get another plan. You go from a plan to a plan to a plan. You got to have a plan. Otherwise, you're just floundering.
Yeah. Life without a plan is as good as dead.
Exactly. It's just not good. So.
Yep. Okay, sir. That's the end of the podcast. Any final thought?
Okay. No, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me on. That was a real pleasure. This is Dr. Rob Yonover, and I just appeared on Shree's Billion Insights podcast, and it was my pleasure. It was fantastic, and I think you should subscribe, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking us on a journey where science meets survival. Your passion for innovation reminds us that every invention has the power to change lives. We are truly grateful for your time and the important work you do. Wishing you good health and happiness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And to our listener, if you want to learn more about Dr. Rob and his life-saving tools, all the links in the description. Thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you next time on the Billion Insight podcast. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and stay curious. This is Shree, your host, signing out. Peace. So, sir, that's the end.
Okay, thank you.